as we've finally completed the season and we say goodbye to an old friend that is the 2016 college lacrosse season. I'm Ryan McD29.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Scrum.
Hey folks, how you doing? This is Erie Barrister.
And it's time for us to dissect, I would say, one of the best championship weekends we've ever had, as well as going with the cold, crippling depression that is no more lacrosse at our hands. It's time for College CrossCast. Welcome to College CrossCast in our championship weekend wrap-up special, live streaming on YouTube once again. So thank you to all you guys that are going to be joining in on that. I'm Ryan, joined by Ari, joined by Chris. We were going to have Marissa and Jemmy on, but unfortunately she came down with a little bit of an illness, so we do this in honor of her.
Can you feel that after Final Four glow, Ryan, through the internet or not? Because Chris and I are definitely still a little bit lit. I joked around. I literally woke up on Tuesday, just took like a nap after work, and I was like, I should be at the link right now. I was like, I almost walked out the door, but I was like, no, it's all over. So
It just sucks that it's all over. We'll get to that in a little bit too.
Yeah, we're going to find out all about Ari and Chris's fun times in the press box and all that good stuff later on. But before that, we haven't done in a little bit? It's Always Sunny in Philly moment, because guess what? Well, let's start off because there's multiple points on this. First off, the Phillies crashed back down to earth. So there's that.
Okay, well, where we expected, right around 500.
The more pressing concern involves, as usual, the Philadelphia 76ers.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Trust the process.
Apparently, the Sixers are in talks with the Atlanta Hawks to trade Nerlens Noel for Jeff Teague. This sounds like a bad idea.
Also known as Nerlens, but no, it's not gonna happen. It's just a smokescreen. We're gonna get we're fine, I think. Well, I mean, go ahead, Chris. Like you first, because I'm
as a devout follower of what we call the process, I do not approve of this. I like Nerlens. I would rather see. I know Bill Simmons mainly rumoring about. Oh, we'll take Jahlil Okafor for the 3rd overall pick. I'd like that. Absolutely. Give me Chris Dunn as well. So we'll have 1, 3, 24, 26. But I feel like Nerlens is more balanced. Whereas Big Ja, who I love, he's only more offensively focused and not really a ton of defense. He can't really play defense that well. And then overall, I mean, I'd like to see at least all 3 of them play a little bit next year, but I think that's going to lose some trade value in the middle of the season when we want to get rid of one guy. But I'd rather see Ja for Dennis Schroeder. And actually, I did a Nerlens for Dennis Schroeder deal in my NBA 2K, my GM mode, and it actually worked out, and now he's my starting point guard. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just rumors right now, so like I'm not gonna lose my head too much, but I'm fine. We have the number 1 pick. We control like the how the draft goes. We're good. We could sit and like maybe get Thon Maker in the late first round, and I'd be fine with it. Or we could trade over to Sacramento, who would trade something to LA, and we somehow get the number 2 pick. So that's the rumor I started about like a week ago. So. It works, I'm telling you. Philly gives Okafor to Sacramento. Sacramento gives Cousins to LA. LA gives us number 2 pick, and then bang, we have both.
Yeah, would they really want to go that route though? I don't think LA would want to give up that 2nd round pick. Granted, they might get Boogie Cousins, who might be a great addition, but I feel like they might rather want a guy like Brandon Ingram probably to fill that young, talented core with the Agent Zero, who used to be Agent Zero, who's now number 1, and I'm forgetting his D'Angelo Williams. There we go.
And we're discussing all this, but it's not like anyone in Philadelphia is going to give a crap about the Sixers come January, and you'll be back to talk about the Flyers.
We're good. Brian, let me tell you, this is going to be great for the draft. Let me just let's just put that right there. So, it's good times. You can play the song. I love it. I've watched 3 episodes probably today already. So, but it's good times in Philly. So we're good. And your cousin just liked one of our comments, Casey over in Kansas City. So I'm flying high right now. Chris, how you feeling, Chris?
Oh, I love Casey. Shout out to her days at Fox 29, and then one of my old friends at LaSalle from LaSalle loves her a ton. And go Cats!
Yeah, well, yeah, I told you all that investment in rooting on for Villanova, even though they're not technically a Philly team, as Ryan would say, is paid off. So shout out Kansas City. Let's talk about the weekend.
We almost went through 2 full songs from the It's Always Sunny in Philly soundtrack. So yeah, let's talk about the weekend because that's actually.
Before we begin, take a bow, Ryan. Take a bow. Like this, North Carolina. This is you. You are a lucky charm. You're amazing.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a second because we got other things to talk about. First, we got to quote Coldplay. We take it back from the start, but first the theme song, of course. I built this town.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's song I'm gonna sing this time though.
I will not miss.
Until next year, when we do whatever other song NBC shoves down our throats for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and thus we co-op for the NCAA tournament.
Just go back to the gutter, get some Linkin Park, and just go with it. That's just universally liked, and not love.
Linkin Park light. So, what song?
Light. Oh, come on. There's some I can't recall right now, but you hated on Creed. And Creed got a couple of shout-outs recently as well. So.
With arms wide open.
Dude, that song's a jam. We can't front. That Creed had a moment. So.
The 2016 NCAA Final Four, presented by Linkin Park.
That'd be great. JC will come through and he'll make peace with that lacrosse comment. We're great and we're rolling,
Alrighty, so without further ado, the NCAA Final Four. First off, shout-outs across the divisions. First, in women's lacrosse, we had UNC pull off a big upset of Maryland. Don't act like you haven't heard that before this weekend, but a little bit of a shocker in the women's tournament as UNC takes down Maryland for the women's title. In Division 2, we had
Lemoyne over Limestone.
Yep, Lemoyne winning it, meaning someone from upstate New York didn't choke this year.
Syracuse's baby brother with the win.
Yeah, they will never shut up about that exhibition game my freshman year. And then Salisbury with a come-from-behind victory over Tufts in the D3 title game.
That was, that game, I will go into them individually, but that was a really good game.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't call it a come from behind, although granted they did come from behind, but they had the lead for most of the game and then they almost choked it. So would you we'll probably call it, for me and from my standpoint, maybe a late Tufts rally coming short.
Yeah, holding on for victory.
Holding on
that one.
For dear life.
Because the Tufts player, his name fails me now, but he had a good look. And maybe, it's not. He has another shot. Another possession during that time. But it could have gone into overtime easily.
How bad does it have to be for? We'll talk about this a little bit deeper, but we'll probably talk about this. How bad does it have to be with Upgren as a senior taking that last shot to tie the game, and then he gets saved and his career's done. So we'll get to that game later on, but let's get to whatever we were gonna do first.
Yeah, let's talk the NCAA semifinals first. And it started off with a bang with UNC dropping 18 on Loyola and beating them 18-13. UNC's first quarter explosion was a sight to see and more or less set the tone for the game as the Tar Heels clinched a spot in the title game in that victory and tore apart a pretty good Loyola defense, to say the least.
You want to go first, Chris? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, first of all, wow. I don't think any of us at all expected a blowout like that. I thought maybe Loyola would win, and we didn't really expect the 9-goal first quarter from UNC. We didn't expect Chris Clute, who we'll talk about later in the cast, to come off and explode with 9 goals and eventually have the most goals in NCAA tournament history. Pontrella, 2 goals, 3 assists. I mean, the offense just lit it up, and especially in the first quarter, and it seemed like Carolina is this hot team that is playing with house money, and they were playing with house money and had nothing to lose. And Loyola, who also probably didn't have nothing to lose either as a 7 seed, but Pat Spencer nearly pretty much got stopped for the first 3 quarters of the game.
I think exactly right. Like, that was unreal to watch for a little. It kind of felt that it was just like just too different. Like, it just not the Loyola team that you saw before. But I think it was just more Carolina was just playing at their peak Carolina when they're just really fast and they just kind of come at you like almost like a tsunami. So Cloutier's effort is it's obviously going to go down to history books. But I thought like everybody was just quickly deferring to like a teammate that had a better position, and the defense was just great. Stephen Kelly played well. Shout out to Chris. Chris had a great quick recap, but broke down a lot of it. But exactly right. Like, though Pat and Pat Spencer, Zach Haywards finished with decent numbers, they were kind of shut out early on, and a lot of Spencer's numbers came through in assists, which was great. But like them not getting on the board early on put them in such a hole that when they did make an impressive comeback in the second half, and it was more. I would say that was more of a comeback than Notre Dame's comeback against Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that fair for
Absolutely.
everybody here?
Because I think when Notre Dame tried to make the comeback, it was too little, too late. And with Loyola, they had a little bit of time left. And granted, I think that comeback started in that second half. But like in the third quarter, started the second half, started the third quarter. But I think it was UNC almost lost it, although granted, they had a 5-goal difference. But, that was one thing I was worried about entering Monday, if UNC could play 60 minutes.
More on that later. But yeah, I felt like this was a game that UNC could have gone. It ended up becoming a lot harder than it needed to be for them, especially after the way that they opened the game. It shouldn't have been that tough where there was a seed of doubt put in place, and in turn they had to use up some players. It didn't really hurt them that much in the end, but I think just because of UNC's reputation, we were waiting for the other shoe to drop. But credit to the Tar Heels, they at least maintained a gap and held off a very hard-charging Greyhound team there in the second half.
Yeah, no, shout out to Loyola. They went 8-2 run, going from the second quarter through early in the fourth. Like, they were down 4, and it was like, what's going on here? For at least from my vantage point, I thought if they just got another one, if they got it to 3, like that stadium would have been pretty rocking, because there was a loud Loyola contingent that was pretty solid, obviously in the first half. But like when they started rolling, like you could see that the team was getting energized, and I don't think I think they were just like taken aback, like with either Carolina's speed or just their ability to just jump on them that fast, because they were just not able to get really anything done. Like face-offs helped a lot. Like they went 14 for 21 in the first half. Carolina did. So if you're scoring goals and then getting the ball right back, it just it can get out of hand quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But Carolina's held on. That's the most important part.
Yeah. We have more on UNC later, obviously, but let's do a quick post-mortem on Loyola. Obviously, we're at the very beginning of Pat Spencer's reign there at the Greyhounds. So, keeping that in mind, obviously, they got to replace some players that are graduating, but got to think Loyola's back on the upswing after this year, and looking at what they've got up ahead with Pat Spencer's whole collegiate career still ahead of them.
Oh, by far. They do lose Haywires, which is kind of sort of big. That was literally the Robin to many Batmans, as Charlie Toomey said on his the media teleconference last Tuesday. They lose Tyler Albrecht, a first midfield. Jeff Chase, a graduate midfielder. Mike Kutzer's a D-midi. I'm just reading the names on Loyola's roster that are seniors. And then David Manning on the defense. So they're coming back. They got a lot of guys coming back next year. And I would definitely put Loyola as the favorite for the Patriot League. I would put Pat Spencer as a leading candidate to win the Tewaaraton. And probably top 10 for the Greyhounds. Probably maybe even top 5 depending on what happens with recruiting and stuff.
Yeah, things are good in Loyola. Like, I mean, obviously last year was a disappointment and not being 500, but they lost like 6 or 7 games by 1 or in overtime. So there was like a margin of error that they were on the wrong side of, but they could easily have won 3 or 4 of those and been in contention for a playoff spot last year. So Coach Toomey's definitely got a good thing going on. Like, he's obviously blessed with Spencer, but really good defense. A couple guys, long stickmen that are going to be integral for their defense going on, and you got to feel good. I mean, like, obviously Navy had a nice comeback here, and they seem to be a little bit more for real. And but besides that, in Army, like that's a conference that they should be able to like do well in. I don't want to make predictions, but this far out, but I think they should. Be in contention for Patriot League, and if not, an at-large as well.
Alrighty, so that'll close the book on Loyola, but there's still chapters to be written for UNC. The other semifinal, well, we knew it was going to be nutty as soon as we found out that Dylan Malloy was indeed playing and suited up for the Bears in the pregame. Yeah, the announcement.
Malloy's music.
Yeah, the Mike... By God, that's Dylan Malloy's music. But yeah, as soon as that announcement dropped, the big mic drop across the lacrosse world, you knew this game was going to be nuts, and it lived up to the hype. But we must say goodbye to our favorite wee brown Bears, as even though they gave us a very entertaining game, Maryland was just that much better. 15-14 thriller in overtime as the Terps come away as victors. Got to say, probably one of the best semifinal Saturdays we've ever had, and capped off with a great offensive performance by both teams, and excitement left and right, to say the least, as the Terps move on to their 4th national title game in 6 years. How would they do? We'll find out soon.
Yeah, I think Ari was down at the UNC Loyola press conferences when I decided to stay up to watch warm-ups, and then I see some of the guys over next to me say, "Is that Dylan Malloy in brown?" And I saw all 4. I was like, "By God, that's Dylan Malloy's music!" And we were talking about, like, is this a good move, bad move for Brown to put Malloy in? And because of what happened with Michael Quinn and Yale against Navy in the first round, where Quinn eventually retore his ACL or re-aggravated his ACL or something like all in all, he re-injured himself, and it cost Yale the win and a possible rematch in the quarterfinals, but that's a whole different story. Malloy scored 2 goals. At the end of the press conference, Lars Tiffany told us that he had a Jones fracture of the 5th metatarsal, which is pretty bad, and I don't really know about medicine.
Yeah. What does that mean?
It's not medical advice at all.
he got a shot of something to help ease the pain, and I think I saw an Inside Lacrosse video about him, how did he played it on Saturday, and he got a lot of stuff in his foot, and still can't believe he played, and he's a freaking savage.
So
By the way,
basically, Kurt Schilling bloody sock game with hopefully him not going on Facebook rants 10 years down the line. Correct?
exactly. I don't think Malloy will do that because Dylan Malloy's a savage, and I talked to him on Friday at the media press conferences. I mean, media day.
Shout out to anyone who talked to us on College Cross TV. First off,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very entertaining with you guys, but yeah, continue.
But I thought Brown turned the ball over a lot. Lars Tiffany in that press conference at the end said, usually when coaches ask me about the system, I ask them first, are you willing to give turnovers? And most of the time, those coaches say no, and then he hangs up on the coaches. So, turnover-wise, 24 turnovers, 4, 6, 8, and 6, respectively, in the four quarters that they played. I mean, you could say, what if they didn't give up so many turnovers? But you could also say, well, if they didn't give up that many turnovers, they probably wouldn't even be here because that's how their system is. And, I mean, they do lose Blinn, they do lose Tills, they do lose Kyler. And there are some questions with Brown going forward, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I thought Maryland was overall a much balanced team, at the exception of faceoffs, which Corral dominated Austin Henningsen and Will Bonaparte, except for that crucial last one where it looked like he won it, but he couldn't grab that ground ball, and Maryland eventually won it on a nice feed from Rambo to Colin Heacock.
I think you got to give shout out to our Philly boy, Will Corral. I think he went 7 of 8 in the fourth quarter in faceoffs. That just definitely helped Brown on that incredible 5-goal fourth quarter. So valiant effort. I mean, like as Chris mentioned, I wasn't there for Dylan's first goal, but when I got done, the Carolina press conference went up. Like I saw the second one, and that was a man's goal. You know, it was just guys all over him. Great defense. Forget who was not Maryland, but it was, you know, you could see Dylan wasn't that mobile, was just able to just still get like the shot in for a second goal, like galvanize the Brown sideline. Like that was a great atmosphere for the Browns second half, and you know, just Maryland in general. Like I think they get a little bit discounted. Like that's a good Maryland offense. You know, like it's not as many behind the back goals like that Bailey Tills thing, but you know, it's efficient, it's lethal. Like they just work it around, and they put 2 of the most offensively talented teams in Brown and Carolina, you know, to the max. You know, they won one, and unfortunately for them, they lost the other. But you know, that's a team that's going to lose some guys. But Maryland's, which we'll get to later, played, you know, just better than Brown. And you can maybe say if Dylan was healthy or not, but like, you know, maybe not. Like Maryland's really good. You know, it's not that outlandish to say like they were the better team on the field there. You know, if it wasn't for a couple plays by Brown, like it could have been Maryland's day, especially in the third quarter, right? I think like Brown had 7 saves in the third quarter. Great effort on their part by Kelly. Yeah, Jack Kelly's had one of his best quarters there, and it definitely stopped the bleeding. Like Maryland was on one. They had a 9-goal first half, you know, and Brown was still in it with 8, but like a few of those trickle by Kelly, like, you know, Brown has a much more of a deficit to climb out of in the fourth quarter. But this is an amazing game. Great scene. Fans on both sides were getting into it. Just wonderful day.
I thought maybe the only question with Dylan Malloy is, you know, what if, because he didn't really get the ball a ton during that game from what I saw. It was mainly like 5 guys working the offense, and Dylan Malloy was just there. What if maybe Lars Tiffany swapped out Malloy on some plays? Because he didn't really start. It was Bailey Tills that started, and Kyler was at attack. And then later on, Tiffany put Balestri back at midfield, put Tills back in, took out Foster LaBeouf. And that's when we saw Dylan Malloy. I was wondering maybe if Dylan came out, maybe for a few possessions, You put in LeBuff, you have 6 guys. Does that make a difference? Maybe. Well, we can't really find out now because the game's over. But probably no. No.
Yeah, no, I think with you, I think the biggest difference was Kelly was able to stop 7 Maryland shots. Really good saves, like a couple close ones. Young had like a kind of a point blank one that like I thought he was just about to get a bucket, and just a great save by Kelly. Like they were able to just stem the tide for a little bit because they didn't score anything. I think they only scored 1 goal in the third quarter. So if they gave up a little bit more, if Maryland had 14, 15 going into the fourth quarter, that's a big hill to climb. Shout out to Tills and Henry Blinn, Caputo, Brendan, like they did well. And Dylan obviously had 2 goals, but Maryland was just seemed like a better team, and they had a good effort by Brown to really make a game of it. So I mean, you couldn't ask for more if you're a Brown fan. Like I think Tiffany responses, but I love listening to Chris's press conference tape. They're obviously disappointed they didn't win, but it looks like a bright days ahead if you're a Bears fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think even though it was a high scoring game, I think there was what we said throughout the season is people discount Maryland's offense, people discount Brown's defense, but they're still solid. And yes, Brown gave up 15, but there were still signs that Brown's defense was keeping them in this game, especially with the goaltending there in the third quarter. And then obviously Maryland's offense, this ain't the same Maryland teams that we were accustomed to seeing in the Final Four, stall bowling and all that. They were going for the kill, and they were scoring, and they brought it again on Monday, as we're going to talk about in a second. But
seriously, like what Maryland team, Matt Dunn takes a shot from 3/4 of the field, That's a team that the coach trusts his players to make the plays, and they had that scouted out. And they are like, if you see it, take the shot. And that was an amazing play. And that doesn't, Browns gets accolades and they deserve them all. Like I think Brown's a great team this year and good for the sport. But like I said, I think Maryland gets a little bit of a disservice and not the recognition that they deserve on offense. And they're going to have a lot of guys back. Shout out to Philly boy Matt Rambo. Had a great game, right? What was it, like 3 and 4? He had
5 assists against Brown.
1 goal, 5. So,
and then going back to that Matt Dunn goal, I thought there were 2 great goals. At Bailey Till's phenomenal 6 swag goal, and then the Dunn heave. That reminded me of, and I told you this on Saturday, Arias. One of my back when I was a junior in high school, we had Stephen Bergman, who's currently at Michigan. He'll be a senior next year, playing on that team. We were playing Haverford, and I think a couple of days before, we played a league opponent, Connell Egan, and we literally took the entire JV team to play against Egan while the varsity guys watched film of Haverford. And they saw something with the goalie, and they're riding, and they're clearing and riding, I believe. And the goalie was out a ton. So I think Bergman took note of that. Bergman had a chance to clear it right outside of the from the end line, and it was just an 80-yard heave, went into the net, eventually went on SportsCenter top 10 for the month of May, I think a couple days later, and it just reminded me of that goal, except just a little bit less distance.
It's just, like I said, amazing shot, and that's a team that, has the trust of their coach, to make plays. So it's going to be a formidable team again next year. Just we'll get to the next game, but they deserve to win. It wasn't like Brown had they were disadvantaged with not having Dylan at full strength. But like I said, they had some players who played admirably. Bailey Tills had a phenomenal game. Like I said, Corral also did well to face off in the beginning. 7-11 in the first quarter, but he came out huge from 7-8 in the fourth. So, a couple more plays here or there, they may have won that game, but that's it didn't happen that way. So, it just can't be that disappointed if you're a Brown fan. And besides the fact you lost.
Quick postmortem on Brown. I know we've been talking about that. Yeah, they have Dylan Malloy back, but at the same time, they do have to replace a lot of things. But given Lars Tiffany's system, is it going to be a matter of plug and play, or is it going to be some adjustments next year that need to be made?
Yo, real talk. Let's make sure Lars doesn't have any more eligibility left because on Friday's media day at practice, he
Oh,
looked good. He looked good on the field. Like it was. I was like, I hope to God I look like half that well when I'm his age. So,
you just
but
have so much fun with this team too. Just knowing him outside of like, I think Ari, this is your first time seeing Lars, but that's typical Lars. He likes having fun with his guys at practice. And he said on Tuesday he sometimes lets his guard down, and that was probably one of the times he lets his guard down. And then Jack Kelly has his guard always up, and he's yelling at Lars sometimes, like, "What do you mean? Blah 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 blah. I got to do this better." And yeah, so Lars is a fun guy to be around, and athletic, and in great shape.
this
He's
is
in great
that.
shape.
This is basic. Like it was literally like he looked like a guy who just like went abroad for a year or two, and come back for his last year at
There's a
school.
there's a reason why we could always just put him in any James Bond movie as the villain, right?
I'm serious. Yeah,
Maybe my
he
favorite
may
James
he
Bond.
may be Daniel Craig's cousin. We don't know. So
I've been hearing about you, Mr. Bond. And then throws a lacrosse ball and kills someone in a background character with the shot. Which leads us to Monday's national championship game.
Wait. Do we want to do that, or do we want to do the Do we want to do the D2 and D3 games and go in chronological order?
I would show some love. I mean, quickly.
Yeah, quick D2, D3.
Hey, so love
Let's go to D3 one was a good game. Like I mean,
D3 was D lit, I guess if that's a word.
oh my god, the Salisbury contingent was loud and boisterous. Yeah, obviously it was Tufts has been running it in D3 for a little while, but don't forget about Salisbury. They were this like their own little hegemony for a good portion of Coach Berkman's reign. So this was a big. I think they both teams wanted it. Let's put that. Obviously, it's the national championship, but I mean, like there was you could see by the attendance figures. This is I think the fourth or fifth highest D2 and D3 day ever. So both fans traveled well. It was a beautiful day. So yeah, that Salisbury game was great.
Oh my god. Quick notes on that. Upgren, who is probably the best D3 player in D3, 4 goals, 1 assist to lead the Jumbos. Didn't really go off in the first half, but late in third and definitely in the fourth quarter, that's when he had when he turned the ignition on. Nick Arborino, 3 goals, 2 assists for the goals. James Burton had the same total. Colin Raymond, the D3 outstanding player with 15 saves, including the last one on John Upgren to win it all. And Tufts basically went on a big old run, a 7-0 run. And I think Tufts had a little 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 run as well to match it. And it was a tight 2 goal trail for the Jumbos. And then in the end, Tufts just held on.
Oh, I loved your video of it, the last closing seconds. But yeah, no, it was like helter skelter there for a little bit at the end. Like Upgren shot, like just certain amount of inches one way or the other. Like they may have been going into overtime. So tough way to pun not intended. Tough way for Tufts to lose that game, but the fans were treated to a really a good classic D3 final.
Hashtag YD3.
Then also Friday, we had the women's tournament game, and kind of like UNC on Saturday with the men, the women get off to a really fast start against Maryland and don't look back. I think that's probably the biggest shocker of Memorial Day weekend. Maryland disposed of Syracuse pretty easily on Friday night, as did UNC against Penn State. But man, UNC came in with the plan and pretty much contained Cummings, which was a big shocker. And in the end, the Tar Heel women win the national title. There's hint with UNC over Maryland. But yeah, I would have to say that's the biggest shock of championship weekend on the women's side.
just the way that Carolina was able to like skirt away from any potential Maryland run, besides like holding Cummins, pretty contained for most of it. Like, Maryland started to make a little bit of run. I think they were down one, was it like 8-7 at one point, and then Carolina again just went like another 3-0 run, got a little bit of comfortable lead, and we're just able to sustain it. But I was shocked. I mean, I had it that game started at 12, so 1 hour before the other one. So I was watching that mostly, for that hour before the D3 final. But still, that was, as entertaining as the one that was going on in front of me, just because like I was just so shocked at how easily North Carolina seemed to be able to dispatch with Maryland, and Maryland's obviously was a monster this year. So
yeah. I mean, arguably, Maryland this year before the championship game was one of the best women's teams ever. We're talking about in women's lacrosse, and arguably one of the most dominant teams in all of college athletics this year. Obviously, we're not going to lump them in with UConn, but otherwise, the UConn basketball team. But just in general, in all of college sports, men or women, Maryland women's lacrosse was got to be top 3, and that's what I think made it so shocking. I mean, yes, UNC's already upset Maryland a couple years ago, and yes, UNC's the only team not named Maryland or Northwestern to win a title since the 2000s, but even still, I think that was the biggest shock to the system out of any result this weekend in the world of lacrosse, even with what we're going to talk about in a little bit.
They were the running rebels. Like, you know what I mean? Like in 1990, like obviously when Duke beat them for their repeat chance, it was a close game, and the North Carolina game wasn't as close as the score would indicate. But they were just stomping on teams. Like their game against Syracuse, like as a Syracuse fan, like what were you like? What's going on? Like because I was shocked with that score. I thought Syracuse would make a little bit of a closer game, but did you watch any of it? Or
yeah, I watched a bit of it, but I mean, by the time I got home from work, it was already Maryland up huge. I mean, Syracuse can hang with Maryland, but I feel like Maryland always stretches it out pretty quickly.
You wouldn't have expected that, though, right? Like
a little bit. Maryland has blown out Syracuse in the past, so it wasn't that much of a surprise.
Oh, okay. I just thought, Syracuse seemed to. I was a little bit shocked. Maybe I should follow the Q's team more closely, but or hold them less in esteem as I do. But I always hold them really high. But I was a little surprised with that, and then like again, I think just that discrepancy in score, and then just seeing them kind of being a little bit outclassed in the first half by Carolina was just a little surprising. And the Carolina Carolina player got ejected with the two.
2 yellow cards, is a red card. So UNC was a man down for most of the game and still held on.
There was a point, I thought maybe this would be a run, but, and like a starting defensewoman out, but it just didn't materialize or as effectively as it normally does. So.
Well, I guess as College CrossCast resident Syracuse and also Princeton women's lacrosse fan, I won't take any. I won't be the least bit upset over Maryland losing, I guess. But no, shout out to everyone in the women's and D2 and D3 tournaments. But now it's time to talk about probably one of the greatest D1 men's lacrosse national championship games ever.
Whoa.
Wait. What?
D2, though.
Syracuse propaganda. Just ignore the D2 team that won the
Whoa.
Okay, let's talk about Lemoyne. No. If this was Syracuse propaganda, we'd be treating Lemoyne winning the D2 men's lacrosse national title like Alabama winning the BCS or something.
Well, great. I mean, defensive affair. Let's put it that way, right? Like, because it wasn't as offensively entertaining as the Tufts game, but still, close one. Limestone had it. I think they were up 4-3, and then Lemoyne scored to tie going into the fourth. So it was tied 4-4 going into the fourth quarter, and then Lemoyne was able to stretch it out. They were an energetic bunch as well. obviously trying to get a little bit of revenge. And it was a cool story, right? Both teams were trying to go for three-peats that day, Chris, right? Or am I off on that?
Yeah, Tufts and Limestone were going for three-peats, and they only had to settle for two-peats and losing the three-peat, with the team stopping the three-peats winning. I thought Limestone was going to win it, but I was cheering for Lemoyne because of the upstate New York Syracuse factor. Logan Thomas had 2 goals. Alex Krawek, the top D2 goalie in the nation, with 7 saves, and I believe Brendan Enneman, defenseman, was named Division II's most outstanding player in the game, and in a great win for Lemoyne. Their 3rd undefeated season, I believe, if I am correct. And then I believe it'll be their 5th national championship. I might be wrong on the number of national championships, but ask me if I care right now. And the answer is not really. But just congrats to Lemoyne, and they got another D2. I am right. It's a 5th national championship for Lemoyne. So congrats to them, holding the number 1 offense in the nation in Limestone to just 4 goals.
By the way, if you're ever in Syracuse, check out Lemoyne's campus because there's some nice views of the valley to the east. Like at SU, you have nice views of the valley to the west, but at Lemoyne, you have nice views of the valley to the east.
And Dolphin Day.
I think didn't they get rid of Dolphin Day this year?
No, they still have it.
They still have it. I had a second cousin that went to Lemoyne, and we met up from time to time. I regret not going to Dolphin Day, especially when I think there was one year where I was off on Mondays and it was Dolphin Day, and I was on a bus that was going through Lemoyne because I had to stop at Shopping Town for something or another, and I kind of regret not going off the bus. But then I guess they find out I'm an SU student and stone me to death or something. I don't know. But
hopefully not.
Let's now talk about, as we said, the D1 Men's Lacrosse National Championship. Probably one of the greatest D1 men's lacrosse championship games ever played.
Well, can I break into here?
You're never going to let us get to this, are we?
Taylor Cummins just won her 3rd Tewaaraton.
Okay, so we were going to talk about the Tewaaraton in a little bit.
Breaking news, Ryan. You can't stop live. As we found out on Friday.
Okay.
It's the Loyola guys.
Okay, so we're not going to.
I mean, we can go to the championship game. I just want to say Taylor Cummins won it, so let's go to.
Okay, so the men's Tewaaraton we're not going to spoil. We're going to talk about that after this. All right, sound agreed?
Yeah, right on. No spoilers.
Okay, so for the 4th time, I'm going to try to segue into this. One of the greatest national championship games in men's lacrosse history.
What up? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Ryan.
Take 5 and
in a game that had great offense, obviously, probably one of the highest scoring Memorial Days we've seen in a long time since Syracuse and Navy tore it up in 2004. But it wasn't just offense. We had some ham on defense. We had some spectacular goaltending, controversy, completely bonehead penalties. If you want to get someone new hooked onto the sport of lacrosse, throw on the last 4 minutes of regulation and the complete overtime of this game, because if they watch that, they are probably going to be hooked on lacrosse for life. But in the end, one long streak was going to come to one long drought was going to come to an end. Either Maryland's no title since 1975 or UNC's no title since 1991. But in the end, it would be the curse of 93 and by extension 91 that ended, and the curse of Bob Boniello continues as Joe Bresci and the Heels dab on him one last time to come away with their first national title in 15 years by taking down Maryland 14-13. North Carolina pulls off the first men's-women's sweep since the 1994 Princeton Tigers, and I think it's made even bigger in the fact that I don't think anyone had either the men or the women winning the title. If you would have said at the beginning of the weekend, yeah, someone's going to do that, you would have thought Maryland, but instead it's UNC. UNC also wins their 5th men's lacrosse title.
Wow.
Take a bow, Ryan. Take a bow.
Okay, yes, I know.
Congratulations.
This has been the year where
This is an amazing year.
If you've learned anything from this show this year, it's that all the tired and true. Wait, hold on. Let me finish my thought. All the tired and true playoff pick'em strategies can be completely thrown out the window. Except in the NFL, you still can't pick against the Patriots, Steelers, or Peyton Manning in the AFC. That one still applies. Otherwise, in the past calendar year, we found out the rule of the Cardinals ruining everything is gone in baseball, thank God. The Villanova out in the first weekend rule is gone. UNC missing the Final Four is gone. And the San Jose Sharks actually doing something is gone. Actually doing something actually applies, and thus the San Jose Sharks choking is gone to an extent.
Well, let's just say Ryan's being right about North Carolina's chances in the tournament is now gone as well. So.
Well, that's what I said. UNC in the Final Four, not making the Final Four, is gone. But Maryland not winning the title still applies. Okay, yeah,
I wanted to know the personal note.
Now, yes, I did change my pick after Denver got knocked out to Maryland. But my preseason pick of, I'm going to pick Denver mainly because, Denver was looking really good, plus Maryland, curse of Bob Boniello, and then I should have just stuck to that because Maryland still lost the title game. But let's talk about the game and less about my shoddy bracket advice.
Shout out, Mr. Bresci. But no, the game was everything that a title game should be. Big runs by both teams. Going down 4-0, I thought like it was just going to be a repeat of the Loyola game. That North Carolina was just on something else this year, and we were just going to blow out the field on their way to a title. But Maryland actually ended up in the half up 8-7. So and they were obviously up 2 goals with 4 minutes to play. So Maryland, I mean, I don't want to say that they let this one go, but because Carolina was and obviously a really capable team this year, but they were 4 minutes away from a title with a couple goals lead. So we can get into overtime. But like your initial thoughts, Chris, the same or like what do you think?
Yeah, I thought in the beginning I was a little bit shocked by how UNC got off to a really good start, and then Maryland, I believe they called a timeout, and they eventually got their things right. They only had 5 point scorers the entire game. Rambo, Henry West, Connor Kelly, Colin Heacock, Dylan Maltz. So to get 13 goals from 5 guys is pretty remarkable for a Terp offense. Nothing from that second midfield. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I wanted to see the second midfield step up, and I talked about that on our Monday pregame show. Yeah, I mean, no Pat Young didn't show up. Lucas Granger didn't show up. Tim Rotance didn't show up, although Rotance had 2 goals in the Saturday game against Brown. That might have done what if maybe they got some more scoring depth from that second midfield. Maryland could have won their first title since '75, but Luke Goldstock, as I talked about in the pregame show, who needs to step up. He did 4 goals. That helps a lot. Claire Cloutier, who we all thought, all right, he's going to get less than 9 goals today. He's probably not going to. He might have a hat trick. He had 5 goals. He had the game winner. Still stunned by that. Definitely deserved to be the tournament most outstanding player. And overall, I thought Maryland was going to win it. They had the recipe to win it, and it just turned rotten.
Yeah, the whole third quarter, you're feeling, okay, Maryland's going to start pulling away. You think about, okay, Maryland's looking better all around, more or less. They look fresher. They're going to start pulling away. UNC teams start faltering around here. Maryland's going to start pulling away. But Maryland never pulled away. And UNC kept themselves in check through the third quarter, weathered the storm, nursing that deficit. And then in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, again, halfway through the fourth quarter, it's like, okay, Maryland's got this, it feels like. You know, they're going to be able to slow down possession. They're looking good. They're not turning the ball over. You know, this is when they're going to start pulling away. But instead, UNC takes the advantage, takes the situation by the horns and starts dictating their tempo. And, you know, they were kind of going a little bit at Maryland's speed on offensive possessions, but kind of shoving it in Maryland's face themselves and executing. And then, before you know it, it's a tie ball game. And, I mean, definitely props to Brescia and the Tar Heels for that comeback ability, because there's a lot. I think there's 66 other teams in the NCAA that wouldn't be able to do that against Maryland.
I think you got to give a shout out to Balcom and Chris. Like made a point in our post game wrap up. Like Balcom had a really good game. And like even we were discussing, it seemed like Bernlor just wasn't seeing things early on. I mean, obviously it's easy for me to say. I was just in the press box, but giving up 6 goals early on, like I think like that concerned Maryland's the sidelines. Obviously, Maryland was able to answer with 5 of their own and go into halftime with a lead. But Balcom had 2 quarters where he made 4 saves and he had 13 on the day. Like compare that with Bernlor's 9, and Bernlor had a big one in the overtime. But for the penalty by was it McHenry? McCarney, who had the unsportsmanlike. Maryland may have been able to like weather Carolina like stopping their extra man unit and get one more possession in the overtime or send it into second overtime. But.
Yeah, let's discuss the final 3 minutes and the overtime, I guess, as its own little microcosm, because it was just that nutty. First off, the refereeing, do you think good calls all around? I think, although controversial, I think for the most part they had it right. There's a couple things maybe here or there where they were going a little too literally or didn't catch. During the overtime, I could have sworn there was interference that could have been called against UNC. But, I mean, all in all, tough calls had to be made. But I would just want to see your guys' opinions on whether or not, because I know this became a point of debate on Twitter on, do you really call a retaliatory penalty there with 3 seconds left in a national title game, or do you just let it go, or do you just send both guys to the box?
If I was in that situation, it's either A, don't call it, or B, offsetting, well, basically just like hockey where they have offsetting minors, and just put both of those guys down for a minute and just start it off. It'll probably still be Maryland ball since Goldstock's happened second. So, I mean, it really wouldn't really mean a lot except probably just a face-off instead of Maryland opening up overtime with the ball. Didn't really understand why only Goldstock got called. I thought McCartney should have gotten called, but it didn't really matter in the end. But that's how I would see either both guys get called or a no call. Let's just say break it up, and next time it happens, you'll get
that. I'm with that because I don't think like if it happens right in front of a ref, like what is he supposed to do? Like not make a call. You can say like he retaliated and the ref missed the first one, but even at that moment, I believe in the press conference, right? Forget its exact wording, but Goldstock said like I kind of lost my place and I shouldn't have done that. And it's easy for him to say it afterwards when he won and like when everyone's level-headed and you feel great. But he understood the moment that that maybe wasn't the best of decisions. We're all human. I'm not at all saying like he I'm not trying to chastise him. But like I think like if you're the ref, like then you're not supposed to call Henry West for slashing with 4 minutes to go. You know what I mean? Like it was the anger at the call on Goldstock. I get like the timing, but 3 minutes before that there was a call that I saw Maryland people not happy with. But like you had to make the call. If you're the ref.
But I think the other thing too is that both teams' tempers were flaring the whole game. I've never seen a national title game where both teams were, chirping at one another the whole game, taking penalties, retaliatory penalties. I mean, this was probably the nastiest title game I've ever seen in college lacrosse, and that's saying something. Given you've had a Cornell Syracuse national title game, you've had, Virginia Maryland, you had, all these rivalry games in it, but I've never seen it as nasty as I saw it on Monday.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Carolina gets after it. I've always said the same thing about Syracuse. Fast, aggressive, not scared. It's easy for me to say was writing and watching, but it seems like when they see a ball on the ground, their first instinct is to get it. Not to see where the ball's going. You can sometimes see just different ways people go after loose possessions, and that's you have two teams who are just built a little differently. I've always said Maryland guys are top to bottom all very stout, fast, athletic guys, and now you're going against a team that's equally athletic, and there's previous ACC stuff. We can acknowledge that. I'm sure the ACC would love to have beaten Maryland, and Maryland would love to have beaten an ACC team to win their first title in a little while. So there was a lot of background stuff as well. So I was entertained. I didn't. Did you think it was dirty? I thought they were just were trying to win the title.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought. Yeah, I think they were a little bit chippy, and I think there should have been maybe some calls that should have been called, and obviously I think the goal sock one is another issue. But Ryan, did you know who one of the refs were in that game?
I forget. Please tell me who it was.
It was Matt Palum. Does he sound familiar?
A little bit.
He was he's at Syracuse. He's the assistant AD for donor relations, and he was on that 1990 team as their goalie.
Huh.
So a Syracuse guy, because I remember I saw the box score at the end. I was like, Matt Palum, hey, I know that guy because he's at Cuse, and he loves us because he played for us for once, and he's usually up coaching, talking with Coach Simmons a little bit about some of his roughing games that he does.
So what you're getting at is it's a conspiracy, pal.
Yes.
But going into
can I break in again?
Yes.
Dylan Malloy just won the men's Tewaaraton.
Alrighty, well, there's that. There goes our whole Tewaaraton debate. Even though we all agreed that out of the 5, Dylan was going to win it, but
I could
look at that. Did you see what Inside Lacrosse tweeted? Look at that little wheelie thing for him.
I just posted. I had it in draft, and I thought Chris would fire even with the no spoiler warning, so I had it ready to go. But yeah, shout out Dylan. Thanks so much for talking with us, and well deserved award. Our free Pat Spencer stuff is jokes. We do love the kid, but Dylan deserved his award hands down, and I think obviously his final showed it. So
I absolutely love that Dylan's wearing shorts.
Yeah, it's probably due to the injury, but now I gotta find my Dylan Malloy Ice Bear. Why don't I have this at the ready? There we go. So congratulations to Dylan Malloy and Taylor Cummings and the rest of the Tewaaraton finalists as well. There goes our Tewaaraton talk.
That's what we do. We give the people what they want immediately.
I mean,
but I just to get back to the game real quick, might be one of the best finals in recent memory. Personally, that Hopkins Duke one was not bad at all, and obviously that Syracuse Cornell game was a classic. Greatest call I've ever heard.
Yeah, I would say Syracuse Cornell had the most nuttiest ending, but I think all around, I think this one tops it.
Quality and play, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I love the pick, by the way.
Yeah,
quality and play was amazing.
Yeah, I feel like the offense was great. The goaltending was nutty. I mean, both goalies selling out in that overtime we go from one amazing save to another amazing save, and they're both what? 2 saves back to back that are just completely unreal with the season on the line like that was amazing.
Bernlohr's Mr. Stop You from Stealing His Girl save was literally taking the ball out of God, who was it? Was it Cloutier? There's a great vine out there, but literally, it was just like it maybe passed like a foot before it went. Berliner just had to stick at the exact right place to stop it. So great effort by everybody. Everyone was locked in at the end. It's no more you can ask. Shout out to Boss Tillman. Like great look at the end with Finn, who was kind of heartbroken. I think it was near his birthday or not his birthday. So classy guy, classy team. They'll be back in my opinion. But
yeah, I have to say, I can't think of two better coaches to be in a title game in terms of, classy guys between Tillman and Bresci. And I think at the end of the game, both of their emotions showed that. With Bresci, in tears over the victory after, we all know the story after the quarterfinals about his son, but also just being there on the field celebrating with his family and all those years of hard work, showing for it here. And then Tillman, obviously, with Finn as well. And, also standing up for his guys in the locker room as well. Just want to put one other note before we put a bow on this. Again, this is a point where I thought Maryland had it when, you're starting overtime on the man up. You think, okay, Maryland's got this. But, I mean, credit to that UNC man down. You can't do a better textbook man down than they did there. And then they go on the man up later on in that overtime period. And who else but Cloutier? I keep on pronouncing him Cloutier because of Dan Cloutier, but it's probably not.
Dan Cloutier. It is Chris Cloutier.
Okay, so Cloutier, yeah. So like the goalie that stinks and gave up that big goal to the Red Wings.
Great story. He's Canadian, right, Chris? Like I apologize if you area.
Yes.
He made like a point when they were talking about Bresci, and goes to your point, Chris, about just two classic. Like I don't like North Carolina. They're bullies in terms of like my love for Hopkins, but they are just been a great team. Who's just unfortunately not clicking before in the tournament. But like this year just demonstrated like Bresci has a good system. And I think we both can say like they've been a problem in the ACC. That their problems in the tournament aside, like they had great regular seasons under Bresci, and to see him win it, like to just you wish both of them could win, obviously, but I think Maryland will be back next year.
But and I think one other thing though, I think even more important than Bresci's system is how Bresci got his team to rally around, the program. I feel like UNC is the first unranked team to ever win the NCAA men's lacrosse tournament. And I think just, heading into, we kind of wrote them off after the ACC tournament, and then they had a tough matchup against Marquette. But from the first round onward, we've seen it in the locker room speeches and the post-game celebrations and everything, but it became really apparent that the whole team rallied around Bresci and rallied around the thought of the UNC program. And I think that we could measure offenses and defenses. I know I'm going to sound all anti-analytical. I'm not, I promise. But there's something about the intangibles that make a difference. And I think with North Carolina, the intangible of just rallying around the program and their head coach and that feeling of family that the program had, set them to greatness. I don't think any of us saw UNC doing this at the onset of the tournament, but, they felt, hey, we've got no pressure on ourselves like all those other years. Let's go out there, have some fun playing, rally around this, and see what we could do. And it ended up netting them their first title in 15 years.
At the onset of the year, like I remember getting eviscerated because I still had UNC in the top 15 or top 12 after their loss to Hofstra. Like it was, some idiot blogger from Philly thought that Michigan had a chance early on. Like everybody was doubting them. Obviously, I changed my tune when they stomped Hopkins, but they had some stumbles through this year. They probably were, one of the last at-larges in, and they had a little bit of a tough road. Like I think they got a good matchup with Marquette and just blew out Notre Dame. And then I think they just started rolling and. It was just to echo your points. You're right. Like just the way that they kind of rallied around him as a coach and mentor, what other terms you like to use, but it was heartwarming. I think we all got a little choked up when he was talking to Clark, right, in Columbus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Bresci.
Mm-hmm. Just a classy guy overall.
Yeah, I think definitely you can't help but feel so happy for Bresci, even if you're a Duke or Virginia fan. I mean, you can't help but feel so happy for the guy.
Because so many jokes, about early recruiting, just a lot of mean spirited like stuff, like when they stumbled in playoffs before, and just they won it off. It was great for the game, I think, because he's just a good guy, and that's a great program, and good to see them back on top.
And quick post-mortems, obviously UNC, we've said, more than exceeding expectations and back to the top of the lacrosse world kind of out of nowhere. And obviously in the ACC they'll still be strong, even with the loss of some players. As for Maryland, they'll definitely be back, but the issue now is 4 title game appearances in the past 6 years, 0 titles. Now, obviously, this is way better than Maryland was doing under Cotty. So, let's face it, this is a good thing that they're getting into title games. It's definitely not a hashtag fire Tillman thing because they're 0-4 in title games, because it could be a lot worse for the Terps, and I think Tillman's really got them in a good place. But the issue is now, kind of like how we were saying about UNC, once they finally beat Notre Dame in the quarterfinal, they finally got that mental block out. Not that they showed it on Monday, but Maryland now might now have that mental block heading forward of Memorial Day. We could get to it, but can we get over that next hump? And they were very, very close to doing so this Monday. If it weren't for that defensive stop by UNC, they're national champs. But for Maryland, is it going to be a challenge to get that mental block off of them? Or do you think, you know what, all these title game losses are going to add up and motivate them to get the job done the next time they get to there?
I'll just jump in real quick, Chris. There you go. No, not at all. Like, Tillman is like, what, 46, maybe 45. Like, this is like, I don't want to like Hopkins hijacked it, but like this reminds me a lot of Petro's early years. A lot of success, didn't win one. Certain corners like make comments about inability to win it all, and I can get like some analogies to other teams that get close and haven't won it. But I think just led by him, by Coach Tillman, and like the machine that they have running there, like Maryland like reloads, dude. Like they're in it. They're in it in early recruiting. They're in it for transfer market. They're in it for like just making sure that their players have everything they need. Like they're trying to win, and when you put that much into your team, like eventually you're going to. I get more of a feeling like it's going to be kind of when than if. Like I'm not trying to knock Notre Dame or Corrigan's great coach, but just like if I'm looking at like in the future of like the previous quartet, Duke, Denver, Notre Dame, and Maryland, like Maryland's the one that has the most staying power, right? Like, I mean, that's not outlandish to say. Like, he's a young man, like still like in his ascendancy. So I think you're in great shape if you're a Terps fan. Like, it's going to come. Like, you can't like ignore the couple of losses, the 4 losses in title games. But I think like that year right after Cotto was no longer the coach. I don't know how to term it. Tillman took him to title game. No one expected that. They thought it would be like a couple growing pains, and I think he's shown like now that he's got his players and he's got a system going. Like they're built to last. So
I think the most consistent team in Division One is absolutely Maryland, and you can see that they've gone to the Final Four. I believe most of John Tillman's terms, if not seasons, if not all of the seasons that John Tillman's been at the head coach, and they want to win it all, and they just can't for some reason that I can't explain because I'm just a lacrosse writer and not a head coach. but you probably might want to think about maybe in a couple of years why Maryland isn't winning these national championships and they're coming oh so close and they just can't get that game, that final game just over them and win it all. So, I mean, Maryland's a great team. Maryland will always be in the Final Four probably for the next few years. I can probably see that happening. But there may be coming a time soon where, all right, we got to look at maybe what's wrong with why we're not winning national championships. And it could be because of the coach. Maybe. I don't think so, but who knows how long that'll be.
But I think we could agree that Maryland's finally going to break the curse of Bob Boniello within the next 5 years or so. I think we could agree on that, right?
Oh,
I think the first two title games, yeah, all right, maybe he should have won the one against. But Loyola was really good that year.
Loyola was a beast heading into that tournament. They were the number one seed in that tournament too.
And forgive me, I don't remember the 2011 team, but
2011 they were unranked. They beat 8 UNC, 1 Syracuse, and then and UVA I think was the lowest seeded team to win a title before UNC did it as an unranked team this year. But even still, Maryland was not the higher ranked team. I think this was the first time that Maryland was the higher ranked team in a title.
That was the first year after Cottle as well. So kind of like a team that's, again, like they were good players at Maryland. Cottle was a great coach, but you know what I mean, like taking your own team, and that was kind of like I don't want to say magical team from Virginia, but like, you know, they got on a run, they got really hot, and I think it was just similar to what happened to, against North Carolina. You know what I mean? Just a team that was just clicking at the right time, to have an up and down season, that just got into the tournament at the and just went on a run. And I think those two games, like, you're going to have to, like, just tip your cap to the other one. Again, a Loyola team that was just a beast that year, and they beat everyone, but Hopkins. But so, like, Loyola was the better team that year, and I think last year Denver was the better team. So this year maybe Maryland was the better team, but again, like, North Carolina was really hot, and as you were saying, you can't really measure intangibles like that, like just the emotional lift after their Elite Eight game. And I don't know, after that first quarter from Loyola, obviously Loyola came back, like, you had to really believe, like, if you're a Cal fan or a player, like, this could be our year. So I agree. I don't think he has that much to worry about.
Yeah, if you're a Terp fan, you're still in very, very good shape, and much better shape than any other program in the nation right now. Yeah. I mean, I know there's some Terp fans that are kind of like the moronic Syracuse.com commenters that are like calling for Tillman's head because of this, but come on. I think you definitely got the right coach for the job right now in Tillman. And as I said, Maryland's going to win one in the next couple of years. It's only going to be a matter of time with the talent they're pulling in. They've been very well coached. And again, I think the other years, again, they were the underdog in the game. This year, they should have won, but you know what? That's just a great game all around by both teams that someone had to lose. So I think if you're a Terp fan, your glory's just around the corner. There's nothing to worry about, I think.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, yeah, let's just if you're like a Terp fan, like, you only pay attention at the playoffs, then yeah, maybe you're like annoyed. But if you're a fan, like, I think Press Box Online in DC wrote a great article. I forget the author's name, but yeah, if you're a team that just if you're a person who just watched this team for 3 months just dominate the field, maybe not totally the scoreboard, but just like they were always just in it, and they just won for 3 months straight. Like, the destination, it wasn't what you expected, but the journey was great. If you're a Terp fan, like, they were a top 5 team the entire year and really turned it on towards the end. So they just didn't finish, but they'll close. So.
And obviously we said what we had to say about UNC as well. So that puts a bow on the 2016 college lacrosse season. But, of course, because you guys are Philly people, let's hear about your experiences in the Final Four as I run to the bathroom while you guys talk about it amongst yourselves for a minute or two.
Of course, he's not going to be here for that. I mean, just wonderful experience. First off, like shout out, like let's start with the accolades. Best attendance, right, since 2011 for the semis, which is wonderful. Fourth
Overall
or fifth,
increase for all 3 days too.
80,000 people, and we'll make sure to talk about it later. But like, I think if you're talking about like how much people are making in tickets, like 80,000 at the highest ticket prices is probably one of the most profitable years
Yes.
in the NCAA recent history. So, I mean, I think Philly smashed it. Like,
I thought we got a good draw too, because UNC has a big fan alumni base. Maryland has a big alumni base, and they're close by. Loyola's close by, and there's a good alumni base. And then Brown is somewhat close by, and they're an Ivy League. So I think overall we got a really, really good draw, unlike maybe last year where you had Denver, and that might have hurt. But yeah, I thought it was a really good Final Four game wise and tailgate wise and just atmosphere wise. Especially the Loyola tailgate on Saturday and then the 2 tailgates on Monday that we went to, UNC and Maryland.
Yeah, it looked like the tailgating scene was awesome, and rebound in attendance numbers as well. So I think it was pretty good all around. I still think there's opportunity to extend the footprint a bit. No, hear me out on this. I think we should think about places other than Philly, Foxborough, and Baltimore. But I think Philly. I think at the very least, Philly saved some face, definitely, and I think
save face. It was a smashing success ride. I listened to that pod beforehand. Like there was like not dire predictions, but definitely less and than 75 and closer to 70 predicted by many on the pod. So I think Philly availed itself well, and given the dire weather predictions given by many on Sunday night.
It was looking like it was going to be a washout Monday.
And it was, it's always sunny in Philly, so it was just a great atmosphere for the. I think listen, I think not including the 3 that have gotten it recently or will get it. I think RFK Stadium and Meadowlands are the most logistical places to have it outside of the normal 3 NFL stadiums. As a homer, I'm taking myself out of it. Like Philly is coming back to Philly. Let's put it that way. There's no way they're going to get 80,000 people playing NFL prices, and the NCAA is going to say no thanks. It's coming back. So let's just put that to the side. But I think the Meadowlands or wherever you want to put it, Ryan, in North Jersey, New York City, Queens, wherever North Jersey, New York City deserves a Final Four, and I think RFK or somewhere in the DC, Maryland area to me makes the most.
Not RFK. Aren't they knocking down RFK finally?
Soon.
Let's put it this way: everyone wants to do it in MLS stadiums. There's no way the NCAA is going to have any stadium, and most of them are only max 20,000, and the ones bigger than that are already playing in football stadiums. They just renovate the stadiums. So, like, you're not going to have it in any MLS stadium that has less than at least 30,000. You know what I mean? And I think then you start looking at Marine Corps, then you're going to have to maybe move the weekend and stuff like that. But, like, I think it needs to kind of stay in the region. It doesn't have to stay in Philly forever, even though I don't mind that.
Well,
it doesn't have to stay in New York, or it doesn't have to stay in Boston and Baltimore. Let New York get to eat. Let, Maryland, Nova area get to eat. And then let's see. You know what I mean? But I think...
Just to play devil's advocate for a second here, though, you know what market had some really good ratings?
Your cousin's market,
Cincinnati.
Kansas
City? No, North Carolina had some good ratings. I think down the line, I'm not saying right away.
Well, because UNC played.
Yes, UNC played, but hear me out on this. Greensboro had a great rating. Raleigh-Durham had a great rating, local ratings. Why not give Charlotte a one-time shot at Bank of America Stadium down the line? I'm not saying right away, but give it about 7 years' time, I might throw Charlotte a bone.
Well, who's gonna go to?
I hear you, and I think 7 years is enough of an incubation time to let lacrosse like continue to grow into like a new price market that they're charging for the Final Four, and then maybe try to spread it out. But I think right now, like outside the hotbeds, you're kind of really contingent on whether the local team that has a large following makes it. Denver smashed it last year. Shout out to them. Amazing Elite Eight, great scene, it was wonderful. But if the Pioneers didn't make it, how many people really are they going to get the same numbers as they did? That's the only concern, and you kind of saw it with Ohio State. I'm a Big Ten homer, and I'll say it like Ohio State didn't do the numbers that they thought, but maybe Notre Dame didn't bring as many, and not having Ohio State as really even a contender hurt it. So like if you want to do it outside the hotbeds, you're kind of not married, but like you're kind of like intertwined with whether or not you're going to have a local team. If the Duke makes it, they're going to blow it out. Like they you may get like 35,000 like you did in Philly. But like I'm saying like if one of the local teams doesn't make it, you're going to have that concern. That's my only thing. Like,
but I think North Carolina though has in its favor a lot of people moving from the Northeast. So that's one thing to take into consideration too. Is even though it's removed from the Northeast, there's a lot of alumni bases down there. Again, I'm not saying right away, but
Duke is pretty much Long Island and New Jersey in the South. So like, there's a lot of love for the Mid-Atlantic in Carolina, and I'm with you. I think that's a market that's on the cusp of blowing up. But if we're just going to like think the area, like where do you think in DC? Because I think like they deserve something besides Baltimore.
See, the issue is FedEx Field's too big, RFK Stadium's too old. The Nationals are never going to allow them to use Nationals Park, and it'll be awful sightlines too. I don't know. I mean, knowing that Dan Snyder's the moron that he is and looking for a new stadium already, maybe wait for that. I don't know. I mean, I guess Baltimore is close enough to the DMV that you can still utilize Baltimore as a quasi-DC market. But that's the issue with DC is that they don't really have a venue. I know I joke around about Citi Field for New York City, but let's be real, that's not going to go there.
No baseball field that is ever going to host a Final Four.
Unless Yankee Stadium sells out its soul because they've already have with NYCFC, but again, not really ideal. But yeah, I don't see... That's the issue. DC doesn't have a venue, so for the time being, Baltimore's going to have to be the DC area Final Four.
I'm with you. Like, I think, Baltimore is just like such a natural place to have it. But like, I'm open to hearing people outside of, but I think it still kind of needs to be Virginia to Massachusetts.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing. I'm not that crazy. I'm not that crazy about giving Foxborough back-to-back NCAA title games. I know they did well. Hear me out on this.
I'm with you, but we're trying to stay on brand, right? Like we did so well in Philly, we don't want to act like we're hating. But
no, I'm not saying that. But
I hear your concern. I hear your concern.
They had decreases in attendance. More and more. It was a big hit in 2008. I think it went down a tad in 2009. I know you have you probably have the championship number tab up. I don't. But, where does Foxborough go if they don't have Syracuse in it, though? Because there's not really that many local teams in the New England area that are Final Four contenders. I mean, now you have Brown as one. You could argue Harvard or Yale might get to that level if Yale doesn't, lose in the first round like they have been. But you're kind of dependent on the New England teams and the Syracuse alumni base and the Cornell alumni base. If those teams don't make it, do the Mid-Atlantic schools from Maryland on south make the trip up to Foxborough to go up there?
That's a far trip.
Yeah, that's still yet to be seen. I mean, not to bash New England as a lacrosse market. We've been hyping them up all year as one. But I don't think that they should have gone back-to-back. I'm totally fine with giving them one again. But I think there's places other than Foxborough they should be exploring. Because every time the Final Four is in Foxborough, I hear it from people, even here on Long Island, that it's too much of an inconvenience. It's in the middle of nowhere. Yes, it's in between Providence and Boston. but you're a good 45 minutes to an hour outside of Boston, and there's no public transportation. So it's not like, okay, let's go on. I think there is one line, but it's inconvenient. And it's not like, okay, let's all go onto a train, drink our sodas on the train, have a good time like that. Like if in some of these other cities with public transportation that's more adept. I mean, the public transportation situation is a lot better in Foxborough than it has been in years past, but it's still kind of just there. It's a random town in Massachusetts that just so happens to have a football stadium because whoever owned the Patriots back in the day felt, hey, this could be a good way to market ourselves to southern New England by having it in between Boston and Providence. So, and, there's not as much to do in Foxborough as there is to do in Philly or Baltimore. So that is it's a concern. I mean, yes, New England's been doing great as a lacrosse market. It's definitely growing in the area. But I think you got to throw a bone to some of these other areas. You got to throw a bone to the New York City area. You got to throw. I mean, I don't know if you could throw a bone to upstate New York because the issue is Buffalo's too much of a box lacrosse market compared to field lacrosse. And although you're going to be very heavily dependent on Syracuse or Cornell, kind of like some of these others. Or Albany even, kind of like the issue that you have in the non-hotbed areas of being dependent on local fan bases. But totally fine with Foxborough getting it next year. I don't know if it was the right choice by the NCAA to give them 2 straight, though.
Well, I believe that's how the bidding process works.
Yeah, that was how the bidding process was, but I'm just throwing that out.
But I'm not sure what they're gonna do after 2018. From what I've heard, they might decide on either more bidding or try to find a temporary, permanent location.
Please, no permanent. No Omaha, no OKC. Please. I just want to throw that out there. No permanent.
Well, I'm pro Philly, and I was talking about this with Ari on Saturday and Sunday and Monday afterward.
Exactly.
Not to be biased, but Philly's is in the middle of 2 big cities. New York City, Baltimore. It has great public transportation, not only inside the city, but like if you want to use Amtrak, if you want to use like NJ Transit to get from Long Island or New York City to Philadelphia. I don't know what Baltimore's is. I don't really care about Baltimore, but still, shout out to Baltimore. It's a good 2-hour drive from wherever Baltimore and New York City to Philly. It's right in the middle. It's of 2 great hotbeds. It's in the middle of a hotbed itself. You can get people from maybe even upstate New York. There's a ton of people. I know Yorktown has a tailgate usually every year at the Final Four. For the past 2 years, they've had it in Philly. I'm not sure if they do it every year wherever the Final Four is. I think Foxborough, Boston area is too far away for most people. I'm not sure if I'm going to go next year if I decide to go, if I'm not part of Syracuse. I haven't really did a calculation of how far it is. Baltimore, you would think it's a great place, but they usually have parades a lot every week. There's something going on every week, so that really lowers attendance, and plus the Orioles play there a lot. And then, is it too early to start looking at places like Charlotte? Yes. But do I hope that maybe in the future they can maybe try it out there? Yes. And then New York, they do a great job. Well, New Jersey. The Meadowlands did a great job with the Big City Classic. The Red Bull Stadium, I think it's too small. You look at Talent Energy, it's about 18,500. That would easily sell out compared to this year's Final Four. And I think the NCAA wants to get a lot of money as much as they can.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I'm not sure how big. I would probably go to, if it was in East Rutherford, I probably would go. But I'm not sure about, like, the Baltimore people. They probably might, too. It's about a 4-hour drive for them. Is that too far for some? Maybe. And I just think Philadelphia, from a semi-biased, but try not to be biased, standpoint, is the best. And I mean, I wouldn't really mind it if they did have a permanent stay there, and if they just maybe try it out for maybe another year and see, all right, how this goes. And And I also think it's a draw too, as well. I think this year's draw is a lot better than last year's draw because the Denver factor wasn't in there, and the Notre Dame factor also wasn't in there. So you had basically two great teams from Maryland come up, short drive. They brought a lot of people. North Carolina's a big fan base, and then Providence with Brown.
One idea I had was like, say there was like a 12-year contract, and if like Baltimore and Philly got 3 years, Baltimore got 2, and then you did 1 year in the Meadowlands, and then you did 2 years in Philly, and then 3 years in Baltimore. So both Philly and Baltimore get 5, but you also give New York like 2, over a 12-year period. I think like you still have to. Lacrosse grew because they had a de facto semi-permanent location in Bird Stadium and to a lesser extent Rutgers. That fostered a lot of this growth. So like if you have 2 or 3 areas that like are capable and have the amenities that people are used to now, because that's the one thing about like having the college stadiums and stuff like that. Like a lot of these stadiums aren't state of the art or NFL type stadiums. They just have better amenities. There's actual seats, not like bleachers. As a lot of other college stadiums have. So I think that's what I think. There's like, I won't lie, I think there were probably a lot of drafts of like articles about like the attendance figures dropping that had to be deleted once the numbers came out. But like I think it was like a good sign that the health of the sport is actually. Here's a hot take. Like the health of the sport is actually pretty good. Like if you're getting 80,000 people to pay the highest prices that they've charged, I gotta believe, right? Since like say 2011, the prices have probably risen, right? Is that fair? Or I mean, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I gotta believe like since they were like 2005, like I think the average ticket was like $35, right, for like one game. Like now it's like 150 or 135 for a season pass. So if the price is higher and you have like a 10-15% jump in Philly, I think Philly's did well. They don't have to like sell themselves now. Like you're like if you're looking for at least 80,000 for a weekend of like the highest prices, like Philly's going to be in contention. So
here's the only issue that I have, though. I mean, obviously, this year did better than the past couple years, but it's still 20,000 less people, at least for the Saturday and Monday games, than 2011. So there's still work to be done, I think. I don't think that just because Philly bucked the trend.
12,000. 12,000 difference on the Saturday game. So, like, not that big. And if you count.
I'm on Wikipedia. I'm counting the semifinals plus finals. They had 35K for the finals in 2011 compared to 26 and change this year.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, 12 on the one day, and like if you then take the price, like if you just dipped it, like I think like you may get those 2011 the height happened for like a 5-7 year period, but like that was kind of when like lacrosse was in the news the most and the premier teams were at their best, right? Like that was Virginia was running it, Syracuse was running it, Hopkins was running it. Like that's fair to say, right? From 2003 to 2011, those teams.
No, it died at around. Well, Virginia was still kind of running it, but on life support 2010 and 2011. Yes, I know UVA won the title in 2011, but it was the.
But in the title games, in the important games,
right?
You had the Hopkins, Virginia, Syracuse, sometimes at the same time, and like you have like just historic great games like the 2005 game. Hopkins, Virginia, and Philly, like it's the Duke Kentucky game of lacrosse. So you have like just iconic moments, and and it feeds on them, and the unfortunate incidents at Duke, those are horrible, obviously. But I think you had low prices and the highest amount of attention lacrosse has had in recent period. It kind of supercharged those numbers. I think the price then like shot up. They thought the demand was there for that price, and maybe the demand is there, but maybe the demand isn't there at that level for that price. And if you cut it down a little bit, then you start to see the 40,000 for a Saturday day. So like if you gave 2005 prices now, you're going to get 40,000 for a semifinal. I think just because like the prevalence of the sport is like the numbers on digital and TV were really good. Like we were just talking about like the game, but people are watching the Twitter mentions, right? Like you
Yeah.
saw it. Like there's Eamon and the ESPN guys were like retweeting just like regular people, not regular, but you know what I mean, like non-fans who just fell into the game and got transfixed, and that's good. Like if you're the second or third highest trending topic on Twitter, it may mean nothing, in the real world, but like to media, to people who care about like promoting and putting what on television, like that matters. So I think it was a good showing for the sport. Like we got the highest hope for Boston, right? We're a no hating blog, so we hope Boston smashes it, and then I think New York deserves it. And I think you can if you can find somewhere in Virginia, D.C., you got to give it to them. Pittsburgh, maybe and then you have like people, Canadians. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like Three Rivers Stadium or whatever it's called now.
Heinz Field.
Heinz Field. Like, is that like a horrible idea? Like, I
Yes.
know.
Yes.
I thought that it would be a little bit closer for Syracuse guys.
Western
It's
PA
too-
doesn't have that much of a lacrosse hotbed.
It's
You only have Robert Morris.
Yeah, like give it. Here's the thing
Well,
there's an argument that I saw that we're trying to grow the game, but it's somewhat hurting the game. And I think the best thing to do right now is keep our niche sport as it is, because that's how we're attracting more people. Just keeping it our niche sport.
I mean, I know I'm against a permanent site, unlike Chris, but I think Chris has a point with keeping it niche is a good way and it'll help grow. Look at the NHL. I think once they realized that they were more of a niche sport, they've done better, I think. Don't you agree? Like, maybe around 2010-ish, they realized...
Well, let's be real. That's what football was. Football was a rich, preppy sport played by kids who went to boarding school. And that was what it was. And then, like, it got a little bigger, and then people got introduced to the sport, and they realized how much fun it was. Like, the lessons it learned, you can learn about teamwork, working hard, and being part of, a whole. And that, like, I don't want to use the word again, but yeah, transfixed the nation and exploded. As like it was easier to travel around the nation, the sport grew. It went to Michigan, Notre Dame, and then it just got bigger. Like that's the route lacrosse is going. I'm with you, both of you. Like I think there's plenty of room to grow in the Northeast. Like I get it, and I'm all about. Anytime I see some school in Wyoming growing the game, I love it. It's going to be in the prospectus. But like if we're talking about like the type of growth that can like sustain like kind of money levels that the NCAA needs to hit, like it's still in this region. And we want to make it open, and like any kid who wants to play can play. But like the showcase of the sport should be kind of like where the critical mass of people are, and there's 1/3 of the country is within like Boston to Virginia. So.
Here's the thing that the TV ratings, if you guys took a look at that, some of the top 10 markets outside of the North Carolina and Baltimore and Philly region, Cincinnati and Kansas City. How out there are those two markets compared to, we hear Baltimore, we hear Long Island, we hear Philly, we hear obviously UNC with North Carolina, we hear long Syracuse and Central New York, but Cincinnati and Kansas City rock in the top 10. That's kind of says a little bit.
Now, I will say that the rating system is a little bit flawed. I mean, obviously, even though New York's not in the top 10, a 0.5 rating in New York is still way more viewers than a 1.6 in Richmond, for instance, or a 1.2 in Greensboro. But I mean, if you're the University of Cincinnati, I mean, they've done a pretty good job at Bellarmine there in Louisville, so it's not unheard of if, say, University of Cincinnati or Xavier want to start up a program after seeing that.
Yeah. And Xavier's in the Big East. Boom. Big East team.
Yeah, just like in Marquette. They've done it. And I think another big thing is, too, another encouraging sign, the 96% increase on digital viewers.
Oh, yeah.
That's huge, especially with more, I know I'm not one of them, but younger people cutting the cord. That's a good sign if you're getting huge increases on the digital audience, because that means you're getting a lot of the younger viewers.
I mean, I know I watch a lot of things on my phone, and I've watched plenty of games this year on my phone. So that's a great. Yeah, just I think the numbers are just all. I think this was a great season, and it ended with a fantastic final. With
Yeah, I think, this was a season of parity for real for once, and this has been just such a crazy season, and it fittingly had a crazy ending. And again, I think the lacrosse, the action on the field spoke for itself. That was probably the best all-around Final Four we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
and like again, we don't want to bash like certain teams. Obviously, we love everybody, but the number bounce kind of maybe indicates like certain teams are great on the field, but this maybe don't have the following yet that like
Well,
for another.
I think definitely one thing that has to be taken into account is the UNC bump, because it's a team that hadn't been to the Final Four in 15 years, finally making it.
We called it, like we said, like this is a 25-year like wait, that there's 25 years worth of 25 years worth of families of alums, that school officials, like this is a proud program for them to be on the cusp after like falling short, like well short of the Final Four in certain years when they kind of looked like a top three team. This was an explosion of emotion, and the girls team was a beast, so it was just great to see. But I told you that I took it out with Chris. Like during the first half of the Loyola game, I thought I was going to memorize the North Carolina songs by heart before halftime because it was just they just kept playing it. Yeah, exactly. So it was, I think you got a great cocktail, great teams, good storylines, a transcendent player in Dylan, and that whole storyline whether he's going to play or not. So I think it was great. And I know, like, was it like UNC game wasn't? I think Syracuse game beat it in ratings. Is that right? The Syracuse Albany game.
Yeah, Syracuse Albany got better ratings, which means that's probably just the obsessive upstate New York fans tuning into Fire Desco. But and also because it was on a Sunday night rather than a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's nighttime. Like the few people are doing things during the day. Yeah. Like they're not like us just watching the.
Yeah, Sunday night. There's a reason why Sunday Night Football is America's most watched program. Besides the fact it's also football, but because Sunday night is the best time to get ratings.
Yeah, it led into Game of Thrones or whatever. But like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think like those numbers are a little bit misleading. Like, and it obviously was an Albany, which is a great rival. So you had like the region into it. So I think the health of the game is good, right? I mean,
yeah. I think if there's any requests I have for the 2017, it's Inside Lacrosse. Please bring back the Big City Classic.
Name one city besides the ones that we've named that you legitimately think, and that includes New York, North Jersey area. So we're taking them out, or the 3 NFL sites. Name a place
besides Charlotte, and not including Charlotte. Then,
yeah, because we were saying like Charlotte's kind of like not ready.
Name one area. Maybe Chicago, because you have alumni bases from everywhere there. And if Notre Dame, I know it's a big if Notre Dame makes it, but Notre Dame's right around the corner. But I think the alumni bases might be good enough to make it a good one-off type situation. Have it at Soldier Field and do that, I think.
The only place I think Chicago's great. Like, and they get and Chris, I want to hear yours, but I am liking this Florida idea. I've been hearing some people banter about in Lax Power. Like, I don't know where you could have it, but like if it was at like a real the Final Four in Miami, like that would be kind of cool. Like just the name wise, and like Florida's like enough, or Orlando has like a place that could hold it. Yeah, I think like something in Florida would be kind of cool.
But I think they need to grow the game a little bit more and have some more programs do it besides Jacksonville, because I feel like because school they weren't getting that great numbers at the Jaguars Stadium for the Moe's Southwest Classic, and they had some really good matchups there. And B, I think Chris could agree with me. Whenever the Frozen Four is in Tampa, we think it's just stupid because it's nowhere near where anyone plays.
Yeah.
Like, literally no one. Not even, like, a token program's down there. Like, as in the closest school to Tampa is, like, either Wisconsin or Princeton. which means nowhere near Tampa.
Oh, right on. Chris, you have a spot?
Give me Los Angeles. Let's see how the West, because we saw a lot of these games in California being played every year, and they get some pretty good attendance. Let's see how maybe not a Final Four, but maybe like a quarterfinal, how that goes, and maybe like where the Galaxy play soon.
And then, so go from where the Galaxy play, and then if they pass the test and do a Final Four, the new Rams Stadium.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one MLS stadium that could properly hold a game that I looked at that I thought that would be not bad, because LA is obviously a fantastic market. So.
All right, so let's play a little game to wrap up. Thanks to our friends at the Fraternity, Brazil's #1 college athletics site.
Yeah, shout out Brazil. Yeah, for sure. Can't wait for Rio.
Yeah,
to the Bane.
Yeah, so I hope they have some good stuff there for the Rio Olympics there. But they gave us a little game that we could play for wrapping up the year.
A koi esta acima fam. I think that means what's up, fam. So. Shout out to Google Translate. Okay, I didn't use Bing this time, though.
Okay, so I think these first two categories are easy. Best player and best freshman. I'm going Dylan Malloy and Pat Spencer.
No argument for me. Chris, you have maybe Sergio. I'll give him some love, right? He's a freshman.
Sergio's a redshirt junior, so nope.
Oh, sorry. Was this his first year playing? Like, I just don't remember him.
No, he played last year in the second midfield. Didn't score any goals.
Okay.
But best player Dylan Malloy, best freshman Pat Spencer. Although I could give it maybe Adam Charlambides.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, next.
No, I think it's what Spencer did, like in the playoffs, did it, but like Charlambides is definitely a name to remember for next year.
All right, next up we got best coach. I think after what he did in this tournament, I'm going to give it to Bresci. I would have gone with Tillman, but I just think the tournament won it for Bresci.
I am dabbing for Bresci.
I really wanted to give it to Lars for this one, but I think Bresci just you can't give it to anybody else but him.
Best team. I know UNC won the title, but I think it's Maryland that would win this overall.
If there's a worse team, it'd be VMI, but we don't have that, so I'm going to give it to UNC. Postseason matters the most, and they won it.
I think I'm going to. Carolina won the tournament. They're the best team, but best team throughout the regular season, yeah, it's Maryland. Like I think that's, you can't pick another team, but yeah, I think overall I'm just gonna go with UNC. They won the title. I just gotta give it to the title winner.
So for UNC, because I didn't give them best team, I'm gonna give them surprising team because, as I said, I don't think anyone had them winning the title heading into this tournament. For the regular season, I would go with Marquette, but I think because of UNC's run, I think they get my surprising team.
I like that Marquette pick. Surprising team, I'm going to go with Brown. Just like
that's a good pick too.
I think like they just like were great, impressive last year, but they didn't win the tournament game, and then they lost in the Ivy tournament game, and then they lost in the main tournament. So you're like, what's if they're really built for the when the big barbecue starts. But I think this year they showed, and then to win without Dylan and Navy, like that was a surprise to me, and like how they took Maryland to the limit. I'm gonna go with Brown.
Well, if we didn't see Brown and Marquette start to pop up in 2015, I would have picked either one. But Rutgers, because they are the truly surprising team. Because we most people thought, all right, Brown's gonna be pretty good. Marquette was probably gonna be all right. No one saw Rutgers being ranked ever. So Rutgers is my surprising team.
I like it.
All right, next up we got disappointing team. I am going to go with two teams on this one. I'm going to go with Cornell and Penn State. I think Penn State, we expected a lot out of them this year after what they were building up last year and with the Big Ten looking good. And they just didn't put it together. And then with Cornell, I think sixth place in the Ivy League is just something unheard of for Cornell, only finishing ahead of Dartmouth. And, I mean, obviously they weren't going to contend for the Ivy League title with Brown and Yale this year, but even still, for them to finish sixth is a real shock in the system.
Oh, I was thinking about this one for a little while. I think maybe. I mean, I hate to put it on a team like that, but yeah, like Nova. I mean, I'm a Philly homer, obviously. I love that the Cats won it all, but I think the way that they started out this season, like I think you really saw Final Four potential. They were like a top 5 team, and then like the game against Brown, and forgive me, I forget the second game that they lost right after that. They really kind of lost their mojo. They were able to like get something back together towards the end of the season and make the Big East tournament. But in terms of like where I thought they were at the beginning and middle of the season to where they ended up, I think I'm gonna have to go Nova.
I got 2 as well. I got Duke and Virginia. Duke was a preseason top 3 team, and we started to see them falter a lot. They lost in the first round to Loyola, and then we know about Virginia, and it cost Dom Starch his job.
Yeah.
All right, next up we got Flash in the Pan team, so I guess a one-year wonder type of team. This one's tough. This is a real tough one because I feel like everyone that was in contention wasn't necessarily a flash in the pan. They were building on something. Even Brown, had the building blocks were in place a year before. And a lot of these teams that, came up to success this year, I think are looking good in the future. I guess flash in the pan, then maybe Air Force. I don't know if they can sustain it in the SoCon, given, High Point and Richmond. So I guess give it to me with Air Force because, their nation's longest winning streak trademark kind of came out of nowhere, but I don't know if that's completely sustainable, especially given, the tough commitments, the tough guidelines that it is to get a guy to commit to the Air Force Academy, especially considering the Air Force has the strictest standards in the military.
They have the most early recruits out there. Let's just also.
But even still, they still have to meet a lot of requirements once they graduate high school, though.
For sure, but I mean, I think we may be seeing something with Air Force. Like, I think, I kind of always laugh like we get out of that early recruiting thing. But I'm with everyone interrupting that. But I am surprised that Air Force has so many like early recruit numbers, like third most 2019s out there. So maybe there's something out there. So
what's your flash in the pan then?
I mean, it's going to depend on the coaching carousel. Like, I don't want to because I think like there's a couple plum jobs out there, and if certain guys do leave, like I think it's going to be detrimental.
So I'm guessing a team that rhymes with Baubin.
Like them, or I think that's I didn't want to be mean because I really like Marquette, but like Marquette might be that team. Like, I'm not saying like. But I think that's up in the air. Like if all the coaches stay where they are, I'm going to side with Rutgers has the most potential for being a flash in the pan league. Like just because like their success was just so pronounced as opposed to what they have been in the past. And I might lose some love in Jersey, but like I think there is the potential there. They could be out there for long haul, and I think Rex is a great coach. But I'm just acknowledging the obvious and. So I'm just going with Rutgers. But like, if there's a coaching change, then yeah, there's going to be a couple other schools that I would put in there.
I like Ryan's choice of Air Force. I think Navy might be that flash in the pan. John Connors out. Patrick Keena out. Who else does really Navy have? Chris Fennell, I believe, is Chris Fennell a junior or a senior? I am finding that out right now. Chris Fennell.
We're doing
Chris
it live.
Fennell's a junior, so he'll be back. Keena's a senior. So they talked about Kevin Wendell's a senior. Jules Galdino on the defense is a senior, and I think the biggest loss is John Connors. How are they going to fill John Connors at the goaltending mark? I'm not sure if they have anyone that's as good or if better than John Connors. So Navy might be that flash in the pan. But I think Air Force is a bigger flash than Navy.
Next up, we got best game. I think you got to give it to the title game.
Yeah. I mean, that's for me.
Yep.
And then lastly, upset of the year. I mean, even more so in retrospect, but Hofstra over UNC, I think, came out of left field, and I think still holds up. I mean, you can make an argument for Richmond over Duke or Marquette over Duke, but I still think Hofstra over UNC was like the biggest wait what going on. I mean,
Marquette over Denver?
Marquette over Denver, then Duke's losses. That was the high point, too.
Yeah, I think that's what High Point versus Virginia was a big one, but then Virginia kind of slipped. I'm gonna go with I mean, is it an upset just because of the ranking? But yeah, I think the Towson over Denver one was big, just because Denver had rarely lost at home. I know they weren't as invincible as the team before last year, but like that definitely surprised me. And that to me was like probably the biggest upset of the tournament. Denver losing at home to Towson, who had just played, 2 or 3 days before. I mean, that's kind of what like makes it more of an upset for me. I think like even like if Towson just went into that game, just a first round matchup, like it wouldn't be that much of an upset. But like to bounce back from a game, even though it was a blowout win, to bounce back from a game, your playing game, to then fly out to Denver, play the national champs in front of their crowd. Yeah, that to me was that was the biggest upset.
I like the Richmond over Duke one, but I think Penn State over Denver in neutral site is the biggest one. Number one team falling at that time to Penn State. I like that as my upset.
I like it.
All right, good choices all around. That was a fun game to play. And
I'm going to add, if you mind, one more category. We're going to go back to that growth.
Marissa would kill us so much if we're going over.
Well, she's not here.
Yeah.
Shout out Marissa.
Yeah, we would have had a tighter ship today.
If there's one Division I team that you could pick that could make a team next year, who would it be?
Oh.
Give me Oregon.
I like it. Outside the box, Nike school. Yeah, first team on the West. For me, it's the Florida school. I think like if you get a Gators or Florida State or Miami, God, if they got Miami, that would be huge. I think like Jacksonville has a chance to be a sleeping giant and stuff, but like you're talking about like a big time name brand school in an area with just overflowing with just athletic talent. Like you gotta give me a Florida school, one of the big three, and I'd be happy. Or USC. That's my other one. I'm with Ryan in the West Coast. Florida or the SoCal team, UCLA or USC. Those are my two areas.
I like the West Coast choice. I'd rather go UNC on that. I like the Florida choice with the Gators. Keep it up Northeast. Get another ACC team, Boston College.
That's a good choice as well. I think Boston College needs to get with the times and restart men's lacrosse.
Right? I think you're looking at BU. You're looking at Connecticut. Had just like 3 teams pop off. Rhode Island, like Bryant makes.
Yeah, Bryant Brown.
Brown is like shout out to Providence, had a couple of like upset wins this year.
Yeah, and I mean Yale and Quinnipiac and Hartford.
Yeah, the Connecticut 3, Harvard, BU, like Vermont,
UMass, of course. You can't count UMass.
UMass.
There's a lot of teams, and like BC's just like standing there, like, well, what are we doing?
And UConn.
Yeah, UConn also needs to get with the times too.
I'm happy where UConn is, so I'm fine. Shout out Rutgers.
And speaking of Hartford, news today that Ryan Martin's been promoted to head coach, just like someone on this podcast called them to do right off the bat.
It was a smart move, right?
It was a no-brainer.
It's a smooth transition of power, you know. I mean, no, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I like it too. Just a smooth transition. Hartford Hawks had a great year last year. Dylan Protesto's back at the faceoff X. And first one to be filled out of 7.
Yep, I think nice, stable transition, as you guys said. And, Hartford's got a good team. I know they're in a tough conference having to deal with Albany, but even still, Hartford's been solid. And I think that's a smart choice.
Playoff team this 7-8 last year with a couple overtime losses on their schedule and a couple of close losses. Hartford's going in the right direction. I think obviously what Coach Lawrence built is invaluable, and the foundation he set. But I think was echoed in the press release. Like Martin has just been really effective with that offense. Getting them to play a certain style. It's kind of very energetic, very fun team to watch. And their defense was kind of like, slightly underrated. They had a, good stretch in the middle of the season where they didn't let anybody, but for one or two teams get over double digits. So, 11-7 year, you had like 2 overtime losses. Have an overtime loss, but you still made the playoffs. So, it's a pretty good season. Like upset Albany, the dawn of the conference. That may have been like one of our low-key biggest upsets, right? Like, I mean, Hartford was a good team, but did anyone really see Albany losing in the first round of the AAC?
No.
Nope.
I certainly didn't. So, shout out to them. They have going in the right direction. I think Martin is a good choice, and there's one team down from the coaching carousel.
This is why College CrossCast will still be around in the summer, because thank you, Virginia and Princeton, for having openings and making this most entertaining offseason in years.
And of course, into the offseason. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Strutting into the offseason.
So this isn't necessarily the season finale of College CrossCast. Next weekend will be the, I guess, more so season finale next Tuesday, as we have more post-mortem stuff. And kind of next week we'll kind of look ahead to 2017. This week is more of a 2016 put a bow on it type of thing. So any last thoughts on this great season of lacrosse?
In a season of parity won.
Yeah. Just an amazing season. Yeah, I mean, just think about like where we, from January 5th when we took over this blog to the end of the season, just was fantastic. Just getting to be there, great. Getting to meet Chris, first time was awesome. Yeah, shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Jim Donaldson at the Providence Journal. Chris, the kid's name from Philly.com who filled in for Aaron. I forget his name. He's a good writer.
Strundleton.
Yeah, great writer in his own right. And all the other people we met and had to speak to. There's too many to name. So
Edward Lee.
By the way, shout out to Brian. Lee. Yeah, shout out to Brian McLaughlin as well. He said he was going to be listening to this tonight. So thanks for listening.
Of course,
great,
holding it down in the Midwest, Brian. That's what he's Missouri area, out of Kansas City.
Another great lacrosse blogger. And then I know lacrosse Twitter was very chippy this year, but I have to say, all of us in the lacrosse community, no matter who we write for or podcast or anything.
Shout out to Dan Ebron too. I forgot him, who I met.
Mm-hmm.
Al.
Yeah, but just a shout out to everyone who covers the sport. I know we might have our arguments on the Twitter sphere over stuff, but we all love this game, and I think, this year we launched College CrossCast and a lot of other lacrosse websites launched podcasts as well, and I think that's a real service for lacrosse fans that, the marketplace for lacrosse podcasts has exploded this year, and we're glad to be part of it.
That's what we're about. We're having a good time. No beef with anybody. That's what I love. Yeah. I love everyone that writes for us. No one's like, The biggest argument we have is what city has better pizza. That's the biggest argument you're going to find in College Cross.
Yeah,
Besides banter is its own topic, but arguments are saved for real topics.
And I think with Ari and I this year when we set out to start College CrossCast, all we kind of wanted to do was have a podcast of two guys, kind of like just going home for the night after work, joking around about the week of lacrosse. And I think it's safe to say I don't think we expected it to become this big of a thing, and we thank every one of our listeners for tuning in every week. And I think we've been blown away by how much support we've gotten for a show that goes way over the time slot that's usually allotted for a podcast. And stick around and listen to us all year long. So, shout out
to the kid George Lucas, Chris Jastrzemski for the video stuff. That blew me away. College Cross TV was awesome. Like all of it. I mean, Chris, take a bow. Like, go ahead.
I need a bow on it a dab.
Yeah.
And also, shout out to the fine folks at ESPN as well for their coverage of the season. Same with CBS Sportsnet and Fox Sports.
What's good, Anish?
Yes, shout out to, of course, Eamon and Quint and Kark and Anish and
Dixon,
Ryan Boyle and Dixon and
Anna Negron, who helps us out with facilitating these chat. I mean, there's gonna be more shout outs. This is only part one.
Yes, Booker Corrigan, free Booker.
Free Booker.
Ryan Flanagan. We could go on. Yeah.
Ryan Boyle, the Prince of Philly. They still call him that in South Philly. All of that.
Mike Corey.
Yeah. Yep, Mike Corey.
Everyone who talked to us, seriously, I said it before the beginning, but anyone, all the players, Boss Toomey, Mead, and Amplo who talked to us, that was awesome.
That was
what was the pro tip that Coach Mead gave you, Chris, for the place to go in Philly?
Some triangle thingamabobber?
Yeah, the Triangle Tavern. Something. I forget what it is. We can figure it out. But
I think it closed down. But
he's a pro. He knows what's up in the tap. So.
But we'll have more shout-outs next Tuesday. We will have our season finale. We're going to still have lots of stuff going on this summer. We're just going to go off our regularly scheduled path and do more intermittent podcasts. Obviously, when Virginia and Princeton and some other schools announce their coaches, we'll break in with them. I'm trying to get some of my Levittown pals on this show for some specials over the summer. We'll call it the Levittown Cronyism edition specials.
Where is that women's lacrosse pot?
It's coming this summer.
Let's just get to that.
Yeah, let me just give a shout out to Lauren Costello, Boston College star back in the day. She was totally willing to join us to do a show, but her schedule was too chaotic this month, so we'll have her on this summer. Don't worry, we're getting the women's lacrosse pod.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah,
and. By the way, we may or may not have a very big guest coming on Tuesday for our show.
That's a proper tease as the industry. That's what I learned from Ryan.
Yes, you're gonna like it if if he's able to come on. If not, we'll have him on during the summer. But little hint there. Any final thoughts before we go?
Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
Let's enjoy the summer, see what happens, and we'll do it again soon.
I got a couple other announcements, housekeeping stuff next week. Birthday shout outs. That's the first shout outs. Chris's birthday's the 5th, right?
Yes. I got a
happy birthday.
Overnight.
June 5th. My birthday is June 4th. Shout out to all the Junes. I believe Hoya's birthday, for everyone that I can remember. Ryan, forgive me. We're not on Facebook, so I don't know your birthday.
It's not till December, so you got to walk.
Okay, so I didn't miss it. Thank God. I would feel bad. But yeah, shout out to all the Geminis out there. Everyone who has a June or late May birthday, we got love for you. So it's gonna be a nice weekend. I'm gonna go home. I wish I could go to that Firefly concert. Shout out to Blink. So. But well, how old are you gonna be again, Chris? Or are you a young boy?
I will be 20. I'm still a young bud.
Woo!
So,
all right.
If you see the kid, buy him a Shirley Temple. And tell him happy birthday.
And trust the process.
By the way, we didn't talk about all the hors d'oeuvres that they probably had at the Tuaretan ceremony tonight.
How much good food is that? I mean, there's a lot, right? I mean, it's probably some good.
Well, anyway, Ari and I won't be saying our goodbyes because we still got business to take care of next week. But for Chris, thanks so much for joining us all season long and sharing your experiences with the Syracuse Lax team and all that good stuff. You've been a blast to have on the show.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me on every once in a while.
We got plans. We're gonna get something. Chris, shout out to his internship. Let's give that a proper shout. He's gonna be on the Carson Wentz beat for College Cross. That's what he's gonna. I mean, his side job beside his real one.
starting today. So, great.
Who are you gonna be? Let's give a proper where our readers can find you.
You can follow the account at Birds247. It's a subsidiary of Philadelphia Magazine. If you are in the Philly area and you get Philly Mag, if you know the best of Philly, then that's it. But yeah, at Birds247 is our main account. You can follow. We have two guys that report on from Bird247. It's Tim McManus and Josh Paulnell. You can follow them, and as I try to speed this up and try to find what their accounts are. I believe Josh's is stall warning. Josh Paulnell, Josh Paunil, and then Tim's is at Tim_McManus, McManus.
So yeah. Don't worry, folks. There's gonna be a lot of Sixers and Eagles talk to fill in the offseason.
Yep.
We're gonna have the show goes on.
The show goes on. You can still follow us on Twitter at RyanMcD29, at SexyTimeLax, at Ari_Barrister, at whatever.
At _JassDoIt_.
Yeah, he's got lots of underscores. We're throwing around our banter for the Stanley Cup final and the NBA final and all that good stuff. Euro and Copa America coming up. All that good stuff.
We got chats coming. We got a rookie class with some plans. We got some good stuff.
We got some good stuff, and we're not done just yet with College CrossCast. We'll be back for our last scheduled show next Tuesday. So from all of us here at College CrossCast and College Cross, have a great weekend and stay hydrated.
Bye, Felicia.
Take care. That was a smash.